The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. I have in studio tonight, I've got Christine Boleto, the Director of Department Administration, and also Guam Police Department Police Chief J.I. Cruz. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Good, good. I can attest that these two folks are working today because we taped earlier and it's Super Bowl day, okay? So they're here in studio with me. They're not out in the field. Only
I signed leave today and I'm still here.
No, but we came here, I want to talk about government finances, okay? And that's why I asked you to come here. So you're still working, so you don't have to take leave, okay? But because you're talking to the people of Guam. But let me ask you this, because there are a couple bills that have been introduced again. We're back again to the rollback of pays and all that. Now, let me ask you this. You are in charge of finances here, and you have a good grip on what's happening or what would be received this year. What is the cost savings on I guess, maybe we can decipher which bill is being introduced and what cost savings that will come to. I guess let's look at the more conservative of those bills. How much would that save us?
Basically, you're looking at about $95,000 a month against an $8.8 million payroll. So it's very minute when you consider the government's overall finances. And that's taking a look again at the salaries of the senators, the governor, and the lieutenant governor. When you add in cabinet members, you're talking about $48,000 a month. And it's like when you look long term at the impact that could have on the people, such as the chief and some of the other cabinet members that we have, the savings that you're producing is nowhere near the potential talent you're going to lose in the government.
I mean, you know, in years past as well, and Chief, you can attest to this as well with your own men and women in the force, and I'm sure your folks down at DOA as well, is that people have left the government or have taken other jobs as well to subsidize not just what government is paying, but maybe for greener pastures. And they have gravitated to greener pastures. Yeah?
Definitely.
Yes, definitely. Most definitely.
In the line, particularly in Department of Administration, you see a lot of the talent going to the autonomous agencies because they pay better and it's not as much stress. When you look at like Guam Waterworks, Guam Power Authority, or the Port Authority of Guam, their salaries for the same level of position is so much higher. And then you look in terms of the amount of money that we're handling with like 300 to 400 million going through those agencies as opposed to 800 to 900 million running through the Department of Administration. You know, you have to consider that when you're compensating people for the work that they do. You have to take a look at what is it that they're doing and what are they responsible for.
Now, I know that we're due. I think we're overdue actually for a reevaluation of the Hay study.
That's correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's
I know over the years, especially the Guam Police Department, in regards to not just through attrition, okay, but I know a lot of your personnel left maybe to join the military full time, or have gone to other jurisdictions, and to be again serving their police force over there because they're offered not only more money, but probably a maybe even a safer environment and more equipment to work with. Am I wrong with that?
No, you're not, and you are absolutely correct. Just a couple weeks ago, I had one of my officers resign to go down to the judiciary of Guam to be a marshal for the unified courts.
We're even losing them to other Guam agencies.
Absolutely. So you see that happening in the Guam Police Department. We're the only law enforcement entity where up to a certain rank you're required to have a degree. So many of my officers are coming in the door, or early in their career, they're seeking out bachelor's degrees and even master's degrees because they want to go to that next level. But at the same time, with this education, they're seeing that maybe there are greener pastures elsewhere. So the attrition rate is quite high. So we struggle with that. And the 40% increase, the law enforcement pay raise, as we take a look at it, was one of those many ways that we're looking to keep our employees on board with us, not to lose them to, and again, no offense to judiciary, to the marshals or probation, but so that we don't lose our officers to.
Now, wasn't it
those
one of the
entities.
incentive years back that we wanted to, again, to better educate our GovGuam employees? So we gave the incentive in regards to the Doc Sanchez
Sure.
Up at the University of Guam,
Yeah.
availed themselves to the Doc Sanchez scholarships and all this. And then, like for the police department and even your department and other departments as well, you give them time off to be able to go to school.
Sure.
Okay, the incentive again is to better educate our GovGuam workforce to be able to qualify to have more pay, to be in line with, say, other jurisdictions, that we can avail ourselves to a standard study. Because a standard study without the educational background would not be a standard. Am I wrong in that as well?
No, you're absolutely
No,
correct.
Jesse, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And that's one of the arguments that we have. That's one of the questions that we ask ourselves is, are we creating a situation whereby we're encouraging our employees to go out there and educate themselves to provide a better quality of service by getting that education, only to look at a potential rollback of these salaries. To us, it doesn't make sense. If we want a better quality employee in the government of Guam, you need to compensate them accordingly. So it's for those reasons and many other reasons do we say that it doesn't make sense to not compensate them accordingly.
Now, even going back, and let's, this is post-election already. The new administration is in, the Trump-Pence administration is in. He's supposedly, we'll wait to see whether that turns out that he's got the best and the brightest, to serve in his cabinet. And that being said, well, I guess if we can look at their tax returns or not, or their financial situations, yeah, they must be doing very good. They must be probably some of the best and some of the brightest.
Sure.
Okay. Now, again, we're part of America. We're part of making America great. Let's make Guam great as well. Now, shouldn't we have that kind of mentality as well, that we should have the best and the brightest? And because you have the best and the brightest, public service is great, but they got to feed their families too.
And I think that's our whole point, is like nobody aspires to make less money or a lower position. You go, you get your experience, you get your education, you aspire to get a higher position with commensurate pay. It's unheard of in the private sector that anyone would take a position of a GM or a sales manager to make less than the people below them, because what would be the point? And so I think that's a very good thing that you bring up, is that, we want to attract the brightest and the best in our community to run our government. And if you're offering less pay than the private sector, why would they aspire to go to government service? Why would they want public service so they can make less money, have a harder life, live as paupers, have more responsibility, and have their life as an open book? I mean, this is my first experience in public service, and I've been down to the legislature more times, as I've told my colleagues, than in my entire life.
Sure.
I've been subject to a lot of media scrutiny, and for what? And so, anybody that's sitting in this position has to really evaluate, should this rollback happen, what am I here for? And we can all preach about public service, but at the end of the day, every individual has bills they need to pay. They have kids they need to support. And, I think when you take a look at what the job requires and what you're paying, that should be the focus.
Sure. I also question, Chief, this, right? I question, and as a matter of fact, I question those and talk to the now the new senators, the newer candidates that were running during election. I said, this pay situation here is not applicable to you. You're running, I'm sure part of your consideration to run is because it's more pay now. I know, look at the mayoral side. We've never had as many mayors and vice mayors running. Why? A big part of that is now they're getting paid what they deserve to get paid, okay? And a lot of times before, why weren't people running? They said, man, it's too much work. And we're not compensated for enough to do that kind of work. But now that you kind of got them up there now, more people are interested. You invited more people, more competition. It was great. A lot of people chose them. Competition is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're getting younger people coming out.
That's
not
right.
just, the ones that are retired and already pulling a salary. the government
Sure.
service was more to compensate or to, you know, add on, but now you see a lot of the young people running and exactly that.
Yeah,
It's
the
because of
face is
compensation.
changing.
Absolutely.
It's changing. I want to talk more about this, but I got to take a quick break and then we'll be back. Okay?
Absolutely.